A mirror hangs on the bathroom wall. In it, your face, adorned with the expression.
Dig deep into your mind to locate the source of the expression.
It belongs in the new, the third decade of the current century. Enough time had passed from the failure of the revolution that, for a fleeting moment, free market economy seemed like the ultimate, uncontested way of life for our species.
Okay.
Things were good. It was smooth sailing. People made gold and champagne-tinted interiors and facades to suit the times, calling this the new style. But more importantly, disco happened. For Revachol, your city, that meant only one thing. Guillaume le Million. If it doesn't rhyme, you're not pronouncing it right. Out of the dazzling swirl of disco music, in an open-air boîte de nuit, somewhere in Revachol West, Guillaume's blonde mane appeared on the screen. He sang some bullshit. Then he made the expression.
So I adopted it? Why?
Everyone loved it. Maybe you thought some of the stardust would rub off on you. Maybe it did. Either way, it's all gone now. Only the grimace remains.
I feel like I need to add a clicking sound when I make it.
The click is used to spur on a horse. It also features heavily in Guillaume le Million's regional mega hit, Don't Worry, Your Pretty Little Head. Sometimes you like to add finger pistols to the mix, because, unlike Guillaume le Million, you are a police officer. It's your nifty little way to say, I'm armed and dangerous.
How long ago was the new?
There is a vast ocean of time between right now and the expression, looking good on you, or anyone. 2 decades, if the calendar is to be trusted. Humanity has run aground in that time. It's a different world now. The expression is a relic.
Anything else? Like, who am I? Why did I become a cop? Why did I drink myself into oblivion?
You have some understanding of the near history of disco, plus the trivia you've picked up along the way. Episodic memory, however, remains in the dark. It may never return. You should prepare yourself for that.
I guess that's it then.
It doesn't have to be. You can swoon over Guillaume and his champagne-corked smile whenever you want to. Maybe some of the stardust will return.
It looks like we have a couple of new thoughts that I haven't read about. The Bow Collector. Sparks fall like snow from the Bow Collector of streetcar number 42. Slowly down the slope from Voyager Road and then east on the B206 across the river to where there are no closed factories or ruins. To study at the Academy. Electrical cables run overhead and the Bow Collector draws across them like a musical instrument. A flash. She's standing at the rear window, holding onto the rail, in a spring coat, waving at you. Looks like we would get some skill check penalties while it's being researched. White Morning. This one also involves a skill check penalty if we decide to research it. These penalties go away once it's complete and it reveals whatever the solution is. You see yourself from above. You're passed out on the blue tiles of the hostel room floor. Even at this distance, you can see your eyelids flutter at the mention of what? A great white object, letting out its sweet smell like a lily of the valley. The little man's forgotten its name, but he still remembers the feeling. And look, he moves. The feeling animates him. He instinctively reaches for the feeling's best friend, a bottle of Commodore Red. He puts on his disco clothes and gets smaller and smaller. And then Guillaume le Million. Another penalty during the researching period. What happened to Guillaume le Million, who, with his amber mane and sparkling teeth, beguiled the tattered remains of the nation? While you suffered and suffered, did he dematerialize in a cloud of cocaine dust? Or did he simply stand in the corner and melt into the slendering new lines of some starlit boîte de nuit 20 years ago? Spare a thought for his great ass, too. Or wait, maybe become a police officer in Revachol West. Maybe Kim's already downstairs.
The door is closed.
Let's knock.
There is no answer. You hear the shower being turned on. Somewhere inside, a tremendous loneliness comes over you. Everybody in the world is doing something without you.
Beauty, don't abandon me in all this ugliness.
The door does not care.
The door probably thinks you're a has-been loser too. You feel your funny necktie becoming tighter and tighter around your neck.
Morning. Looks like we can get to work at once. The union muscle turned up. They look rowdy. We should talk to them.
What do you mean, rowdy?
I mean ungovernable. Martinez isn't exactly enthusiastic about the RCM being here. They prefer to be policed by the union. These men here, men who drink beer for breakfast? There's talk of an armed wing of the union called the Hardy Boys, who are responsible for state policing. I think it's them.
There's so many of them. Maybe we should call in reinforcements.
That would just escalate tensions. No captain would sign off on it. Solving one murder isn't worth a conflict between the RCM and the Debarders Union. In fact, even the death of 2 detectives might not warrant an all-out war. So let's keep a cool head, okay?
Why do we need to talk to them?
Everything points to the Dock Workers Union. The belt used for hanging him, tracks in the mud, the circumstances in Martinez, my preliminary information. Which may, of course, all be wrong. But we still need to talk to them, and it won't be easy.
And these are the men that Gart told us about yesterday.
I completely forgot. Sorry, I had a rough night's sleep. It's them by the looks of it. Loud and nasty, just like the manager said. One loose thread less to worry about, and one big problem to replace it.
Let's roll.
One more thing before we do. We don't have to talk to them immediately. We can walk right past them, continue with our business.
Good. A power move. Purposefully concentrate on something else first. But aren't you curious to know what they have to say about the murder?
They're in no hurry to leave. They think they own the place. Anyway, I leave that choice to you. Whatever you decide is fine by me.
Let's speak to Joyce, the Wild Pines rep, a little bit more now that we have Kim here. Ooh, another article of clothing. Shadows on the water, green plants under the calm surface.
You're back. Good. What can I help you with? Not an umbrella, I hope. I don't need one myself, you see.
She pats her wet raincoat. I could use a coat like that. The rain is freezing.
Sadly, I need this one myself. It's hydrophobic, repels water, almost magically. The company makes them for offshore platform personnel. Very sturdy. What I can do for you is answer some questions. Nothing like talking to pass a rainy day.
Do you know something about these tattoos? Showing her the photo of the victim.
That's the man who was killed. I'm afraid this is a discussion for once we've cleared the lynching question.
So you know something about the tattoos?
Better not tie the fourth day to the bat's day on this. I hope there is something else I can help you with.
She wants to answer the question. Protocol keeps her from it.
Okay, tell me about this alleged drug trafficking.
It's quite straightforward. Someone is using Terminal B to smuggle raw ingredients from the Samaran Isola into Revachol with the Union's blessing. Wild Pines has suspected it for years.
Ingredients for what, ma'am?
Meth and dextroamphetamine, GBL and various synthetic psychedelics. Honestly, it might be quicker to say what you can't make from the stuff.
Let me get this straight. The materials come from Samara to Revachol through the terminal?
Yes. After they clear the terminal, we lose track. The actual production is taking place at various sites in and around Jamrock Quarter, north of here.
Wild Pine seems to be well apprised of the local drug trade, ma'am. Do you mean to say the Union also produces the product? Sells drugs, I mean?
We're in logistics. It's our business to know. And no. As far as the company knows, the Union does not produce it. They transport the ingredients for a cut.
And you want us to investigate?
Yes, but you won't get anything out of Evrat and the Dock Workers Union. Still, every chain has its weak link.
The handoff. The motor lorries at the roundabout.
Am I going to need bolt cutters for this?
Unlikely, officer. I'm talking about the lorries. Once the ingredients reach Jamrock, they're distributed to a network of local manufacturers, well beyond our grasp. But in transit, they may be vulnerable. Perhaps you've noticed that a number of lorries are tangled in a traffic jam at the roundabout just now. Interview the drivers who are still hanging about. One of them might be waiting for a crucial shipment.
She gives you a knowing look.
I'll be explicit. If you find this driver, I will share company secrets with you.
Why didn't you come to the RCM earlier?
We did, on more than one occasion. Apparently, there's some sort of inter-precinct disagreement about whose jurisdiction this area falls under.
We know the company has launched its own probe into the Union's alleged involvement. We also know it's come up empty. It's not just the RCM. No one's been able to find any hard evidence.
Well, here's your chance, officers.
It's no coincidence the lorries are stranded there like that, is it?
No. We asked East Motor Track to raise the drawbridge. The road company is a partner of one of our subsidiaries. However,
She pauses, looking to the sea.
this is a limited time opportunity. Once the complaint has been processed by the Trade Committee, they'll have no choice but to lower the drawbridge, and the operation will continue.
She looks north.
Thousands of litres of raw ingredients will pour onto the streets of Revachol. Not the east across the river, but the west. The vulnerable, the weary.
Well, at least this solves one mystery.
What is that, Lieutenant?
Why I had to call East Motor Track and beg them to open a drawbridge for me. I'd wondered since I first drove in, on my motor carriage.
I am sorry for the inconvenience, Lieutenant Kisaragi, but we need them trapped here. This is a unique opportunity. I'm sure you understand.
What proof do you have that the Union is involved?
How do you think they're financing this strike? There are thousands of unpaid dock workers going strong for the fourth month straight.
There was a shakedown of local businesses preceding the strike. Many were squeezed to bankruptcy to fund it.
With all due respect to these desert cacti, the contents of a few cash registers cannot provide for 2,000 men. The local businesses can scarcely provide for themselves.
So you think the strike is being funded with source ingredients for drugs?
Precisely. Smuggled out of that very gate at night, most likely, then loaded onto lorries and driven to Jamrock. You simply need to find one driver who will open up to you.
Okay, I've made up my mind about the smuggling investigation.
Yes?
We'll take this case, probe the drivers, see what it yields.
Excellent. According to my reports, there are at least 3 lorry drivers lingering near the roundabout. Hopefully one of them will know something. It may come to nothing, or it may just blow the case wide open. I can keep the drawbridge up for a few more days at least. You should have the time you need. In the meantime, let me know if there's any other way I may be of assistance.
She takes another long sip from her seemingly bottomless thermal cup. You're on a boat.
Why, yes I am.
She looks at the deck under her feet. Green and white sails flutter overhead. Not a lot of people on boats, are there?
Of course there are. We're on an archipelago. How else are you supposed to get around?
Wait, we're on an archipelago.
Yes, we are. We are on Le Caillou.
Caillou. I thought we were in Revachol.
We are. And the city of Revachol is on the island of Le Caillou.
Still, I haven't seen anyone else sail a boat around here.
I haven't seen anyone else drive a souped-up Capri Kenema motor carriage either.
Actually, that motor carriage has been specially issued to serve as a patrol and pursuit vehicle. It's for crossing long distances in the greater Revachol industrial harbor. It's not a toy.
Neither is this. A toy, I mean. It's a machine for crossing long distances in the Bay of Revachol, between the city and the islands.
You need to make this lady admit she's only riding around on this boat because she's rich.
Why?
Why what? Stop thinking. Take her down.
Actually, yes. I need to nail her for this.
Before you do, it might be pertinent to ask a few more questions. Learn whatever you can about this boat of hers.
Does she have a name?
The boat? No. It is called Cordelati 19 because that's the type of sloop it is.
The word "it" feels strange. Such a beautiful boat deserves a proper name.
Cool, but your boat really needs a name.
Okay. How about Cordelati 19? Why?
She taps on the side of the boat. It makes a hollow sound.
Because it was manufactured in Revachol East by a company called Cordelati, and its hull is 19 paces long.
She makes a point of being unromantic about it.
How about the sleek fish?
What?
Because it's sleek. And fish-like.
I think I'll stick with the factory name. But thank you.
Okay, but what kind of boat is it?
It's a pleasure craft. A 19-pacer. It also happens to be rated for Category 1 racing. Though these days I mainly use it for business.
How do you like it?
My sloop? I like it a lot. It's the eel's hips, baby.
I'm enjoying this part of the interview. It has so little to do with the murder we're investigating.
I really do, the lieutenant thinks. Is she thrown off yet? He's looking at the woman, assessing her.
Do you have a license for this boat?
Officer, I assure you I'm a highly qualified pleasure craft operator.
The crowns of her teeth are porcelain, white as the boat's hull as she smiles. Her nonchalance might be related to something called the Wayfarer Act, a law that says she doesn't need a license. Sly fox, you're not aggressive enough to harass her further on this.
Let's talk about the economics of this boat you're on.
Oh my, the E word. You mean to say that it's a symbol of conspicuous consumption? That I'm a member of the ruling class?
Precisa mundo. Class wartime, baby.
Detective, may I remind you that Mrs. Messier is a professional negotiator.
He doesn't look like he thinks you'll best her in single combat.
Then what does that say? Does it say, Docking reserved for residents of Rue de Saint-Ghislain, 33A. 33A, this old proletarian haunt here. As I said, plenty of people drive boats, of all social strata.
Fire back, quick.
She takes a sip.
This is gonna happen.
Okay.
Any moment.
Nothing happens for quite a while.
They will come from my head. The arguments.
As they do.
The thoughts happen inside his brain.
Wave your hand next to your head. It will help.
It doesn't.
Keep waving your hand, slowly.
My, it's as if there's a tiny spinner on the side of his head and he's reeling thoughts out.
Except he isn't.
The lieutenant is satisfied with where this is going.
Keep doing it.
Lieutenant, I truly don't understand what is happening here.
I told you his methods are unconventional.
I swear to God, I'm usually sharp. I don't know what happened. Why am I not killing it?
Your marbles on glass, dear. Don't worry.
What were we talking about anyway?
It was quite a while ago, but I think... Yes, we were discussing my fast, large, ineluctably middle-class boat.
I think I have a handle on the boat thing.
Good.
She takes a sip of her thermal cup. I've got some more questions about reality.
More lessons in basic reality? My favorite part of the day. Go ahead, ask me anything.
What was the RCM again?
Nothing more nor less than the de facto law enforcement body of post-revolutionary Revachol, Detective.
Yes, we are the Revachol Citizens Militia.
He's being sarcastic.
Are we?
We are.
You said de facto.
Yes, that means not de jure. The RCM acts in what is poetically called the twilight of international law, both at the behest of the coalition government and to its chagrin.
That's it for the who I am part then.
Permit me to conclude with this. Who you are to me is the police, the only legitimate law enforcement authority in Revachol. And if those authorities drink so hard they need help recalling the basic terms of reality, well, I am here to help.
That's all for now.
Glad to have been of assistance. The little that I know. Anything else?
Thank you. That's all for now.
This is a wall on the side of an apartment building.
Why am I looking at this wall?
You have no clue. It's just a wall.
Another article of clothing. These barrels are half full of rainwater. So at this point, I'm not clicking on every interaction bubble, and that is for a reason. I am doing a little bit of min-maxing here because I'm playing on the harder difficulty. I'm hoping that at a later date I can, basically after internalizing the right thought, I can click on those and get little bits of experience, which should help to offset some of the difficulty of the hard mode on this game.
Just a moment.
The old woman turns back to the cafeteria manager.
And there's no public phones nearby?
The closest phone booth is down the coast. Sorry for the inconvenience, ma'am.
The cafeteria manager appears genuinely apologetic.
It's fine, I understand. Thank you anyway. I'm glad to see you again, dear.
Good day, ma'am. Everything's alright?
Please don't trouble yourself about me, sweetie. I was just hoping to make a call, but the Whirling's phone line isn't working. The union office probably has a phone, but I can't really get there. Or to the phone booth down the coast. And Gary's phone is dead too.
She sighs. What's wrong with the phone line?
The manager was vague about it.
She frowns. Why would he be vague about phone problems? This is something to look into later. Ask God, maybe.
Why did you need to use the phone anyway?
To let the young woman who's house-sitting for us know that we may be delayed. Morel, my husband, and our friend Gary were supposed to get back by Monday night, but they're still missing, and I haven't heard from them. I was also hoping she'd heard from Morel.
She looks down. Okay, I'll bite. Has your husband gone missing before?
That's just it. This isn't like him at all. He always plans his expeditions so carefully, but you have more important things to worry about.
She glances out the window towards the bay.
More important than a missing expedition? I don't know. Expeditions often lead to something interesting.
What is this expedition your husband was on?
Just some field work, sweetie. Morel is a highly trained scientist. He and his assistant Gary are studying an extremely rare species of insect. But they should have returned by now. They were just going down the coast across the water lock to set a few traps. He said they'd be back on Monday. What could be keeping them?
Who's this Gary person? Do you trust him?
Oh, sweetie, it's nothing like that.
She smiles.
Gary's as loyal as they come. I trust him with my husband's life any day.
Are they in a rough neighborhood?
There's a nameless old fishing village nearby, but we've never had any trouble there before. There is a lot of crime around here, isn't there?
I can't say it's the best part of town, but I wouldn't worry too much about a pair of grown men traveling together.
Do it. Find her husband. This will surely lead to a cryptozoological mystery with that extremely rare insect. Some fringe science is exactly what's needed right now. Spice up that vanilla murder investigation.
This sounds like police business. I'll help you find your husband.
Are you sure we have time to go chasing after bug hunters just now? I did suggest we play it cool, but...
I've got a premonition that this missing scientist is connected to our main case.
I sincerely doubt it. Still, I suppose it won't hurt to keep an eye out.
Oh, thank you, officers. Truly, I'll be right here if you come across any sign of Morel.
So your husband is some kind of scientist?
Oh, yes. A zoologist. A cryptozoologist, to be more precise.
What is cryptozoology?
It's a pseudoscience that attempts to legitimize research into mythological beasts and urban legends.
The lieutenant sounds unimpressed.
That's one opinion, yes. And people are entitled to their opinions.
My apologies, ma'am. I did not mean to undermine your hobby.
It's not a hobby, dear. It's a subfield of zoology, one specializing in animal species that are so exceedingly rare that many assume them to be extinct or even fictitious. Searching for such species called cryptids is difficult and often thankless, and frankly, many scientists are too lazy to do it. Universities these days are rarely interested in supporting real research.
The quality of research at Revacholian universities has been on the decline, but you doubt there was ever a time when cryptozoology was embraced by the academic elite. She's completely internalized her husband's struggles. They are her own.
Tell me about Morel. Looks, character, your relationship.
Oh dear, I'm not sure where to begin.
What does your husband look like?
Well, his expression is slightly grumpy, but his eyes are always bright and curious, like a small boy's. And his palms are quite coarse from all the field work, but he's quite gentle.
It's always a challenge to describe the person you know best in the world.
Let's try this again. If I were to meet him on the street, what would I look for?
Oh, well, he's a bit shorter than you, but with a larger frame, and he has longish white hair, usually a bit uncombed. You might say wild, even.
The lieutenant pulls out his notebook and begins jotting down the woman's description.
One other thing, he'll likely have all kinds of field gear on him, even if he's not out in the reeds, just in case.
How long have you been married?
We'll be celebrating our 16th anniversary this autumn. Not the most numerically satisfying anniversary, but I like the less obvious milestones even more somehow.
And how did the two of you meet?
Via dating agency, I'm ashamed to say. I was looking to get back into the scene after recovering from my accident, and he'd just divorced. We hit it off, and, well, here we are.
She smiles wistfully.
She's skipping over some important parts. Perhaps you'll find out more later.
I think I have all the information I need. Let's move on.
I hope I've been useful.
Tell me more about this rare insect your husband is looking for.
Oh, sweetie, it's fascinating. But I shouldn't bore you with entomological minutiae.
The lieutenant gives you a sideways glance.
No, I want to hear about the insect.
Well, it's a phasmid, technically, but...
Ah yes, Phasmatodia, a diverse group of insects whose bodies resemble twigs, leaves, that sort of thing. Ghost insects, colloquially. Oh yeah, here comes the interesting.
Where other phasmids imitate sticks or leaves, this one's a living reed. It disguises itself among the reeds here on the Insulindian coast. Hence its name, the Insulindian phasmid. Perhaps you'll end up co-discovering the phasmid with us officers.
She looks you in the eye and nods thoughtfully.
I knew it. We're gonna be chasing made-up insects with cryptozoologists.
It's not made up, officer. I can assure you. It's simply elusive, so much so that most establishment zoologists doubt it exists at all.
What makes you think the phasmid is around here?
Well, some teenagers making out in the reeds saw one. They didn't know what it was, of course, but there was a brief article in a local newspaper about their encounter with a ghost insect that looks like the reeds. Gary sent us the clipping.
So a newspaper clipping is all the evidence you have?
Of course, most phasmid sightings turn out to be false alarms, but their description matched the Insulindian phasmid perfectly, and they didn't even know what they were looking at.
So, is it dangerous?
Not at all. Why else would it hide itself so carefully?
Does it have cool powers?
Yes, it can blend in almost perfectly among the reeds. It's how it stayed hidden all these years, centuries even.
Is it valuable?
Oh, I doubt it. No one gets into cryptozoology for the money, sweetie.
Okay. What's so special about this stick bug then?
Oh dear. I'm afraid I'm not explaining this very well. It is very special.
The woman's face flushes with embarrassment.
Morel can explain it all much better. I wish you could hear him describe it. Then you'd understand, I'm sure.
About your pin,
I hope you were able to pawn that old trinket.
she smiles up at you earnestly. I just wanted to thank you again.
Of course, dear. I just wish I could have done more.
Suggestion. Maybe you could convince her to tell you about some cool cryptids.
Sometimes the most charming thing you can do is be reasonable in your requests.
Could you tell me about just one more interesting cryptid? The Insulated Phasmid was great.
I suppose you could use a break, and I could use a distraction.
One cryptid, like you said. One. This can't turn into some kind of cryptid extravaganza. We have things to do.
Cryptid Extravaganza. I like the sound of that.
And I don't. Just one.
Ooh, tough choice there.
Are there any invisible cryptids?
What an interesting question. And the answer is yes, there are.
Of course. All fairy tales have someone or something invisible in them.
Shush, Kim. She's going to tell me about the invisible cryptid. What is it?
It's the Col de Mamadaqua. Its name means thin whisper of sound, and that's precisely what it is. Self-replicating sound waves, invisible and intangible. The Col de Mama is very afraid of us, which makes it incredibly difficult to track.
Col de Mamadaqua can also be translated as a whisper light and low.
A whisper, light and low.
Yes, that's another translation. They're both quite lovely, aren't they? Although the low part is a little ironic. The Col de Mamadaqua makes, or rather is, such a high-pitched sound that other animals, including humans, can't hear it. It could be everywhere all of the time, and we wouldn't know.
Fine, I'll bite. How can an animal be a sound?
Many scientists have asked the same question. Some have claimed that it isn't itself a sound, but a tiny corpuscle that emits sound waves. But there's no evidence to support this theory.
Could it be here? Right now?
It could be. As I said, it could be everywhere. And we wouldn't know any better. It could be ringing all the days of our lives and nights.
What evidence is there of this animal being a sound?
Plenty. It's the evidence that led to its discovery. In the 1920s, a group of Areopagite ornithologists, that is, scientists who study birds, were trying out a new recording technology for capturing sounds outside the range of human hearing. When playing back recordings they had made in the foothills of the Ea mountain range, they noticed certain anomalies, patterns that seemed random at first, but on closer examination were consistent with the waveforms of songbirds.
Just nod eagerly.
The scientists soon discovered they could track and even predict what appeared to be feeding, mating, and migration patterns based on sound waves in a strictly delimited range of ultrasonic frequencies, even higher than those of the highest-pitched bat calls. They realized that they had discovered a new species and called it the Col de Mamadaqua, after the Paracanassian name for the voice of God, which is said to be very silent.
Wow.
They grew quite obsessed with these little birds. Even though they couldn't see them, they could distinguish among individual birds and even began to name some of them.
Name them.
Sequester, Time, Joscan. Those are but some of the Mamadaqua they followed individually.
Why is the Mamadaqua so afraid of us?
That is a sad story. A group of university students assisting with the field work in their enthusiasm for the project, and no doubt because they were preoccupied with impressing their professors, nearly drove it to extinction.
Extinction?
They tried to communicate with it and had no other means but sound. So they started sending out sound waves at frequencies they thought might match the Mamadaquas. And what happens when a sound wave meets another sound wave of the same frequency, dear?
Psst. They cancel each other out.
They cancel each other out.
Exactly. And these tests were performed so recklessly that when they happened upon the right frequency, well, They wiped out most of the population.
Great regret washes over her. A wending cloth.
After that, the corpuscle appears to have migrated elsewhere. There have been recordings of anomalies similar to those spotted in Ea, but they've been few and far between. It's impossible to confirm the presence of any stable Koltamamadakwa population anywhere.
Of course. A common thread in these. Disappearance and unfalsifiability. I like the story, though, ma'am.
I'm glad you did, dear.
Interesting. What about...
What about what?
Is that a cryptid on this pen you gave me?
Hey, you promised you'd only ask about one cryptid.
But Kim, don't you want to hear about another cryptid too?
The lieutenant pauses, thoughtfully.
Ah, fuck it. Let's have more cryptids.
Hell yeah!
Well, the cryptid on your pen is the kind green ape, half war story, half undiscovered species in the genus Homo.
War story.
Yes, it was reported by soldiers in South Safra during the war. The kind green ape would visit bunkers during the night, healing wounded soldiers with its saliva.
Wow, with its saliva?
Yes, it has amazing healing qualities. Some soldiers reported growing back limbs, regaining their sight.
And there was something about an undiscovered subspecies of man?
Indeed, there is. It's our closest relative among the cryptids. Same taxonomic family, different genus. Which is to say, the kind green ape is a species with which we share a common ancestor, and that evolved parallel to our own. Just like your partners.
I'm pretty sure Kim is the same species as us. To suggest otherwise is stupid.
The lieutenant looks at you, pleasantly surprised.
Oh, no, I didn't mean to imply that Saolites are inferior to us in many ways. You are superior. For example, your earwax doesn't have a foul odor like ours does.
A tremendous evolutionary advantage, I'm sure. But perhaps we've had enough speculative biology for today?
What's the most dangerous cryptid?
The gnome of Jeroma.
She pauses for effect. The gnome of Jeroma? That doesn't sound too bad.
Oh, it is. None of its victims survived. Grieving relatives never even found their bodies because the gnome's venom dissolved organic tissue.
What did this cryptid look like?
It was reportedly a small creature with webbed fingers and a protruding forehead and a gangly little thing. Quite scary to look at. A couple of campers found it when it was already dying. They heard an odd wailing in the woods and followed the sound. They were scared and wrapped it in tarpaulin to suffocate it. It still took the gnome of Jeroma an entire day to die.
If the body of the creature was found, why aren't there detailed illustrations of it in science textbooks, confirming the existence of this very little species?
Alas, the first scientist who got his hands on the creature's corpse put it in a jar of formaldehyde, thinking that would detoxify the gnome's venom. Instead, all the venom leaked out of the creature's teeth and into the surrounding liquid, dissolving the creature itself. A poetic end, perhaps, but a real loss for science.
Alas, always alas, and then it was gone. Isn't that overly convenient?
No, it was a perfectly good explanation. Stop being so skeptical.
Sure, a perfectly good explanation. It dissolved in its own venom. Go on then. Ask about more gnomes or whatever.
What's the biggest cryptid?
That would be the giant of Kokonur.
She says, as if it's common knowledge.
The giant lives in the most arid parts of the vast Kokonur Desert in South Samara, casting a strange light across the barren wastes.
Wait, what do you mean strange light?
Mirage or a psychogenous luminance.
She does not elaborate the nature of the luminance further. And just how big is it?
No one knows for sure. It is like an awful mountain appearing from below the horizon and expanding to cover almost a third of your field of vision.
Is it dangerous?
The towering luminosity of Kokonur is a bad omen in local folklore. Some say it's a fata morgana, others, fate unimaginable.
Hui. No animal can be that large. It's a mirage.
That's what makes it so peculiar. A species surviving at the very limits of scientific law. The giant of Kokonur must be the largest animal the planet can support. There are limits, you see, to how large a metabolism an ecosystem can beget. Some say a gravity anomaly below the Kokonur desert might allow the creature to grow to these gargantuan sizes.
Great. This is great shit. You need more. Gravity anomaly? Digging it. Digging this parascientific stuff right here.
What's the tiniest cryptid?
Cryobacter catlensis.
She answers immediately. Cryobacter catlensis.
Yes, a unicellular bacterium that was discovered in one of the northernmost points of Kotla on the Boreal Plateau by renowned geologist Caitlin Mijanou some 70 years ago.
What's so special about it?
The bacterial colony Mijanou found had remained alive while frozen in ice for longer than anyone could reliably estimate. Certainly from before recorded history. Mijanou disappeared shortly after injecting herself with the bacteria she had brought back to study, no doubt in hopes of prolonging her own life.
You mean there is an immortal geologist wandering the world?
Yes, and she's quite mad, too. After she treated herself with the bacteria, she stopped aging, but also became increasingly eccentric and irascible so that even her oldest friends were forced to pull away. We can assume that she has been living somewhere in the wilderness for decades now, all alone except for the Cryobacter catlensis coursing through her bloodstream.
Man, I just can't get enough of these cryptids.
I'm glad you like them, but I'm not really one to tell you about all of them. You should ask my husband if you get the chance. He's the real expert.
That's all for now, ma'am. I think we'll wrap up here for now, and I may try to talk to the unionistas here when I return.